Hello, my loves. Continue to update new stories on Reddit, and don't forget if you like it, please subscribe and like it. Now let's start new stories. Story, What Do I Do? I am now 22, and it's something that I have only told a select few people as I know no one would believe me. But what the hell, I don't even care anymore, I just finally want to get it off my chest. When I was 17, a day before turning 18, I got pretty drunk as I was celebrating over the phone with my friend at the time, since this was during COVID. Anyways, my living situation was pretty weird as my parents left to live in another country when I was 14 and I decided to stay in the US to finish high school, so I bounced around many places living with friends. I did live with my girlfriend at the time and her family for 2 years, but once we broke up I moved out and I came to live with a family who resembled mine a lot. Hispanic, loving, 3 sisters, and one brother that resembled my siblings who left the country as well, not only in appearance but in how they acted, so I came to love them as my own family to the point I called them my siblings and their mother. I called my mom as she was exactly like my mom in every way on she was more outspoken and very tough with love and protecting her kids. This was the end of my sophomore year, and from there to my senior year they were my family. I knew they weren't really my family because of blood, but they saw me as if their mom birthed me and that we truly were family. The mom, let's call her Maria. Well, Maria never treated me different on many occasions. Her and I would have son and mom days to go out and she would hug me when I would cry, as I did miss my real family, and she just showed me love and support in any and every way possible. I say this because for a while during COVID it was just her, my little stepsister, Vivi, 10 years old, and her older daughter, let's call her Michelle, and I. Well, we all four got super close during this time, like inseparable basically, and this made me even swear they really were my family. Maria had another daughter who was my best friend in high school, Jasmine, 18F, before I moved in with them, but she lived in another city after high school but was my age, so she would come to visit on occasion, and to show how close I had gotten to her family, I got even closer to her bigger sister than her. Anyways, one day all of us were at home except Maria, 45F, it was just Vivi, 10F, Jasmine, 18F, Michelle, 24F, and I doing our own thing. I was drinking in my room on FaceTime when I remembered just being pretty drunk and the rest of the night not really comprehending much of my surroundings. But since I was home I felt safe as we would all drink together from time to time. Well, anyways, from there I just remember at midnight, now my birthday, so I'm now 18. I open my eyes around like 1 to 2 a.m. and I'm lying on the couch with my stepmom beside me, passed out. I just embrace her as again I saw her as my mom. It's important to state that all my friends said how hot and gorgeous my stepmom was and that they would jump on her at any given chance, but not me. Yes, she was beautiful, but she was my motherly figure and someone I saw as only my safe place and my loving stepmother who always was there for me at my lowest and to cheer me up at my highest. I never saw her as my friends would. I go back to sleep still drunk, and like 30 minutes later, I wake up to someone grabbing my private part, and when I say I was still drunk, but the second I felt that they grabbed and started pumping my private area, I became completely sober because who the hell is touching me? I open my eyes, although it's dark there is only enough light to see who it is, and it's my stepmom. Now when I saw that it was her I just immediately kept saying in my head, no, this can't be true, I must be sleeping, this is not happening. I just repeated it over and over again, thinking it was just a dream. To make matters worse, I know people would say, why didn't you stop it, or tell her something, or get up, but mind you, she was an amazing mom, but when she drank it was her way or no way. Also, the only people in the house were her daughters and I was the non-family member when it came down to the truth. If I did say she started it and she said it was a lie, or that I was the one who sexually assaulted her, would they believe? Their loving mother, whom they've known their whole lives, or a kid who they've only known for a few years and don't truly know him 100%. Anyways, back to the story. That's why I decided to just close my eyes and not to do anything but just act like I was asleep. As she kept going on with my meet up and down, she grabbed my hand and put it in her pants and forcibly made my fingers go inside her. And when I say forcibly, it was because I made my whole body go limp, so I still remember how she grabbed my fingers and put them in with hers in her kitty. And she just went to town with my body and my fingers in her, and the whole time I'm super sober now and I'm just internally crying and praying to God to make this go away. When I just black out, I do not remember anything after that. I don't know if she ended up having sex with my body or not, but I was completely drained, balls and all, when I woke up and still dreading to accept the fact that what happened last night was real. I saw to my horror that my mom was still laying beside me on the couch with my hand in her pants, and I pulled it put slowly as to not wake her, and like 5 minutes after she got out of the couch and went to go lay down in her room. I was completely horrified, especially because I used to always say men can't be raped or assaulted sexually because they'll love it regardless of the situation. Plus, during my high school and after years, I was extremely addicted to having sex every day, but this grossed me out, disgusted me, horrified me, and made me see her in a different light. To me, it was like my own mom had just took advantage of me. To this day, that family doesn't know of their mother's own doing to ruin what I thought was my family, and I had to make it seem like I turned into an asshole one day and had to do them dirty, and the whole time it broke my heart to leave my little baby sister, whom I helped with homework, school, watched scary and funny movies with, taught multiplication and made breakfast together every day, as I just left one day out of the blue, and to this day I never could tell her. And especially my best friend Jasmine from high school, who introduced me to her family, who was her daughter, as after I was assaulted. I didn't leave right away, but instead like 1 year after, because I had nowhere else to go, and during that time we became boyfriend and girlfriend in everything but name, because her mother would have killed me had she known. We ended up liking each other and becoming intimate, as she told me she would go to prison if I got with her daughter. To this day, I remember how Jasmine called me with so much hatred when I left, and I couldn't bear to tell her why, as I didn't want her mom to go to jail for my little sister's sake and for her sake, and because they would never believe me, as their mother was always seen as such an example and would never be capable of such a thing. It has now been 4 years, and it still kills me that I made them see how I was the bad guy only to not tell them the truth. I now live in a different country and wish every day to tell them, not for reconciliation, but to finally get it off my chest, but I know they will ask why I waited so long to tell them, or why am I stooping so low to lie about something that's serious that couldn't have possibly happened. I guess mostly what hurts, and I haven't ever told anyone this, is that Jasmine and I were becoming serious and almost were going to tell her mom, and now Jasmine is pregnant and with someone whom I can only think was my replacement, as I just left her heartbroken and alone, and it may as well probably could have been my kid she was going to have. Story: Jezebel. In a distant land, nestled within a serene and picturesque valley, there existed a charming hamlet called Jezebel. With a population of no more than 50 inhabitants, this idyllic settlement remained concealed from the outside world by towering mountains on either side. The rolling meadows surrounding Jezebel were adorned with an endless array of enchanting flowers that seemed to be forever in bloom, thanks to a mystical enchantment. This enchantment was created specifically for the hundreds of Jezebel butterflies that fluttered gracefully around the town, bestowing it with its enchanting name. As I made my way towards Jezebel, I followed the solitary road that originates deep within the mountain ranges forming the valley. Finding this hidden path was no easy task, as it is safeguarded by a mystical seal to ward off unwelcome gazes. Fortunately, I was guided to its location. During my journey to the town, I was captivated by the sight of butterflies gracefully flitting around me, pausing every now and then to alight on blossoms and sip nectar. The gentle fragrance of flowers carried by the breeze filled the air, creating a tranquil atmosphere. Apart from the occasional chirping of birds and the rustling of plants, there was very little sound. The most distinct noise was the rhythmic sound of thumpers' hooves striking the earth, echoing through the serene surroundings. As I approached the town of Jezebel, the fading light of the setting sun painted the buildings in a warm, comforting glow, creating a picturesque scene. Riding Thumper, I made my way past several structures before finally arriving at a quaint tavern situated on the town's periphery. The name of the establishment, Summer's Embrace, was prominently displayed on a sign that gently swayed above the inviting entrance. As the sun gradually descended toward the horizon, an extraordinary phenomenon unfolded before the town's eyes. The flowers that adorned the outskirts of the town started emitting a soothing, ethereal blue light, casting an enchanting glow all around. As the graceful butterflies delicately sipped the luminescent nectar from the flowers, They too became adorned with a captivating blue radiance, creating a mesmerizing and magical scene. As the sun began to set, a delicate and mesmerizing dance of butterflies unfolded, painting the town in a vibrant and enchanting glow. The graceful creatures fluttered through the streets, casting a warm and ethereal light upon the cobblestones. The townspeople emerged from their homes, carefully capturing the butterflies in glass jars and delicate nets, to bring their luminescent beauty indoors to illuminate their homes for the evening. Despite the breathtaking spectacle before them, the residents of the town appeared nonchalant, as if such a wondrous display was simply a routine part of their everyday lives. The overnight transformation of Jezebel into a spectacle is attributed to a long-ago sacrifice. Earlier, there were flower fields around Jezebel, but they lacked the enchanting quality, and the butterflies did not dance on the breeze as they do now. The transformation occurred during a goblin invasion when a young girl named Jezebel, faced with imminent danger, uttered a prayer for the protection of the town. Miraculously, her plea was answered, and as a goblin's sword struck her, it transformed into a burst of butterflies, and the flowers around the town bloomed in a spectacular display. This event not only saved the town but also instilled fear in the goblins, who then began to see the girl as a witch. Story: He cheated on me with his friend's mom. This isn't about my most recent ex, but this breakup was the one that started a long cycle of bad breakups. When I was 19, I met his guy Jackson on Tinder. He wasn't my usual type, but he was kind and funny, and we immediately hit it off. Things were really good between us, well, until they weren't. LOL. Jackson started making offhanded comments about my looks, my weight, and things of that nature. One time we got into an argument because he called me fat, and instead of apologizing he sat on the floor and cried to me about how he was insecure about being black and how at least I could change my weight, but he'll never be able to change his skin color, so there's that. He would get mad at me over the smallest shit and block me on everything. He'd tell me how he didn't care about me but was just using me to validate himself. He'd say that if he ever cheated on me I would never find out about it. He even threatened to unalive himself at one point. One time I found lipstick in his car and asked him about it. I wasn't accusatory or mad because I knew that it could belong to his mom, his sister, or one of his female friends, but then he proceeded to tell me that he didn't know where it came from and that he didn't know anyone that wore lipstick. Another time I found a photo of another girl in his wallet and he swore that she was just a friend. Spoiler alert, it was his ex. One night he wasn't answering his phone, and I had this ominous feeling in my stomach that something wasn't right. I've never ever been the type to look through someone's phone or social media or anything like that, but this night I did. I signed into his Snapchat and found out that not only was he cheating on me, he was cheating on me with his friend's mom. They were sexting, planning their next meetup, talking about him spending time with her son and her husband, talking about her sex life with other people, telling her how he didn't even like me, talking about our sex life with her, and she was even giving him tips on how to please me. I confronted him and he told me that I was psychotic, a leech, disgusting, and worst of all, that my dead dad would be so disappointed in me. My dad had died that same year. I'm not sure why I'm sharing all of this here, but it feels nice to get it off of my chest. Story: My partner cheated on me, lied to my face, and I still tried to take him back. Then he betrayed me again. Hi Reddit. I'm here with a sob story like a million others, and I'd love some words of wisdom if anyone feels generous enough to give them. So my ex-partner, 26M, and I, 26F, were together for just shy of 2 years. We've known each other since we were little kids, and I always considered him one of my best and truest friends, even once we drifted apart in high school. He is funny, clever, sweet, and attentive when he wants to be. 2 years ago I had a dream about him out of the blue and reached out to him, wondering if he might like to have a coffee with me and catch up. He accepted and we got coffee and caught up. Apparently he was under the impression that was our first date. I genuinely thought we were just hanging out as old friends. Once he made his feelings/intentions for me more clear, by way of an extremely romantic picnic date that he put a lot of care and effort into, I asked him to let me think about it first. And think about it I did, for almost a month. I had only ever been in messed up, toxic relationships up until that point, and I didn't want to bring that baggage into a potential partnership with someone I already had so much love and respect for. During that month, I did a lot of self-reflection, and came to the conclusion that I was more than capable of being the good, trustworthy, and loyal partner that I knew he deserved. I thought we had a really good relationship. It was far and away the best one I had ever been in. He was sweet, romantic, thoughtful, and enthusiastic about me. He had long-term goals and plans that he quickly started to include me in. I met his friends and family and did my best to honor him by being the best I could be to his loved ones. One thing that kept coming up, however, was his job. He works in a restaurant. He thinks it's fine dining. It's not. It's a high-pressure environment, to be sure, and about a year into our relationship he was given a promotion from bartender to manager. I think that's when things might have started to go downhill. The pressure got to his head almost immediately, and he slowly became colder and more closed off. He is obsessed with his work and his coworkers. He had two really good friends/roommates, let's call them G and T, whom he convinced to come work at the same restaurant so they could all spend even more time together. G and T liked to party. A lot. Especially G. My ex often said that G was a bad influence on him and that his behavior worried him deeply. They would go out with maybe 10 to 12 other coworkers to the college bars in our town, we are not college age anymore, and get drunk maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not much of a drinker myself, so I tried to keep up with them at first, but over time I stopped trying as hard, and my ex also stopped inviting me to go out with them. I also started getting the impression that those coworkers were, not exactly good people. So there was that too. We had more than a couple disagreements on that topic. Anyway, up until a couple weeks ago, I thought things were basically good between us. He always said our relationship was perfect, which was confusing, because obviously no one is perfect, but also because we had definitely had our fair share of conflict, usually about his tendency towards selfishness and childishness. But he always had so many lovely things to say about me and about us and about our future together, so I tended to focus more on his words than his actions. My mistake, obviously. Well, he cheated on me. With one of his coworkers. A girl I was always nice to and never thought twice about. They went out to a bar in our town, had some fun, and went home together. When he told me several days after the fact, I was completely shocked, and for a moment I truly believed that he was joking. A fucked up joke, to be sure, but a joke, right? No. At first he tried to blame it on her. She came on to him and he just froze up and didn't stop her. Al asked him to clarify, did she actually assault you? He said no. He admitted that he chose to participate. I asked if he was drunk. He wasn't. He did try to throw G and T under the bus as well, basically implying that they had encouraged him to have sex with her, and had been filling his ear with misogynistic poison. When I asked him why, essentially, it came down to she was just there. Damn. Stupidly, I kept trying. I should have kept my dignity and never spoken to him again. But unfortunately, I love this person very, very much. So instead, I flipped out. Crying and pleading and begging him to let me fix this somehow, that I loved him too much, that he can't do this to me, etc., etc. He told me too many times to count that it was the worst mistake of his life, that he loves me more than life itself, and that he would do absolutely anything to make this right. He swore that he would quit his job, move out of his apartment with G&T, and never speak to any of his old coworkers again. And for some reason, I believed him. Up until last Tuesday night. We were texting about regular life stuff instead of fighting, and everything actually felt 90% normal for the first time since he told me that he had cheated on me. I asked if it was awkward between him, the G, and T since they're all still living together for now. He said no, it's been all good between the three of them. That already had my eyebrow raised since he had been talking about how they were terrible people who he never wanted to have anything to do with ever again. I clarified, so you're not cutting them off for now? And then he told on himself. He said it's coworker's last night out, I wanted to come say bye. Huh? So he was actively out with his coworkers right at that moment. I know that whole crew of people always goes to the same bar on Tuesday night. The same bar where he was when he decided to cheat on me. Elle asked him if the girl he cheated on me with was there too. He didn't reply. After almost an hour I called him. I asked him to please tell me he was not at the bar I thought he was at. He confirmed that he was. Elle asked him if she was there. He confirmed that she was, but said he wasn't talking to her, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Right. He repeated that he just wanted to say goodbye to this other coworker who's moving away. Elle asked if he wanted to come say goodbye to me too. He begrudgingly said I guess I'll leave, which honestly made me really mad, so I said no, stay, have fun, do whatever you want to do. Well, that's exactly what he did. He stayed there. So I showed up. Duh. And who should I see standing outside but the very same girl he cheated on me with? I won't go into details, but suffice to say, I put the fear of God in that pathetic woman. She tried to walk away and I followed her into the bar. I lost her for a moment, turned around, and saw him sitting there right in the center of all his toxic little friends/coworkers, the ones he tried to blame this whole situation on. And her standing in between us. I locked eyes with him and we just stared at each other. I mouthed, "Really?" And he just shrugged. He motioned for me to follow him outside to talk. We went outside. I said, "Are you serious? This is how it's going to be?" And he responded, "I just needed one night." I was completely dumbstruck. After a moment I just said it was cool knowing him and started to leave. I turned around just in time to see him roll his eyes and go back into the bar. I haven't heard one word from him since, although I can see he's reading all my messages. Does anyone have a couple words of wisdom or strength? I realized as I was writing this all out that there's probably nothing more for me to do. All day long I'm screaming at him in my mind for betraying me so badly, but I can't think of a single thing worth actually saying to him. I don't know why I want him to keep trying and keep talking to me when I know there's nothing left for me with him. The trust has not just been broken, it's been destroyed. So why do I still want him to try? I can't believe the person that I was in love with could ever treat me this way, or that the story we've been sharing our whole lives could end with him disrespecting me so badly, just to ghost me afterwards. I feel like throwing up and I'm constantly shaking with adrenaline or anger or maybe both. I just want to talk to him, which is insane considering everything that has happened. I don't know why I would give him another opportunity to lie to me. TLDR, my partner who I have known since we were little kids cheated on me, lied about it, and then disrespected me to my face while betraying my trust all over again. For some reason, I still want him to talk to me and try to fix it, even though I know it can't be fixed. What's wrong with me? Story: he cheated on me with his friend's mom. I'm at a loss and don't know what to do. I just feel completely empty inside. My husband travels a lot for work. He's usually gone about half the month or sometimes more. He confessed to me last week that he has been struggling with watching porn while he's gone and he wants to get professional help and wanted me to know to have my support. Last night, he told me it wasn't just porn. When he was on a work trip to Vegas, he was watching porn and one thing led to another. Long story short, I guess whatever shit he was watching piqued his curiosity, and he ended up reaching out to someone on Reddit and got a blowjob, and it also happened to be a dude. Honestly, I don't even care about what that could possibly mean. Also, the gender of the person matters much less to me than the act itself. This happened 3 weeks ago, and he just told me. We've been together 4 years and have 2 kids, a 1.5-year-old and a 1-month-old. He's willing to do whatever it takes to stay together and fight for us. He has appointments for therapy already, and we're going to start couples therapy too. I don't know what I'm looking for in here. Building trust back feels impossible right now, but I want to try for our babies if nothing else. I know what advice I would give to someone in my shoes, but it hurts too much to think about right now. I'm just so angry at this entire situation. I feel fucking crazy. I'm so mad at him for ruining my vision of our entire future. Story: humans are weird, I just can't anymore. My name is Lily, I'm a 19-year-old female. I was sexually abused from the age of 8 until I was 13 years old. I told my parents when I was 15, and they confronted my abuser, who is the biological parent of my younger sibling. I am now 19, and I've been dealing with the aftermath and suppressing the trauma ever since I was 15. When I was 16 or 17, I was sent to a mental hospital due to my suicidal thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened to me and how it could have been prevented. While in the mental hospital, I was sexually assaulted by another patient the day before I was discharged. This led to me almost being sent back due to the trauma. The following year, I was assaulted in my math class, and no one did anything about it. I started to believe that this was something that only happened to me. I graduated last month, but I'm still not over what happened. I've let a friend of my parents know that I'm still struggling with this. I still have nightmares, couldn't wear dresses until I was 18, hated sleeping in my bed, felt uncomfortable being naked, had flashbacks during sex, and felt resentment towards my younger sibling because of what their parent did to me. My parents asked if I wanted my abuser beaten up, and I said yes. Now, I'm scared because my sexual abuser is still in my sibling's life, not mine. I see him often, and this is what I feel is truly holding me back in this whole process. I feel so alone in this. I pressed charges as soon as I turned 18, and the whole process is still ongoing, taking longer than expected. I feel so guilty, hypervigilant, and afraid all over again. Because of this, my suicidal ideation has returned, and now everyone knows I'm suicidal. I'm leaving for college in the fall with my dog, and that's the only thing I'm looking forward to. Story: my creepy stepdad wants me to twerk in front of him. Me, 19F, and my stepdad, 48M. I really don't know what to do. I want to tell my mother, but I'm scared. 1 year ago, my mother escaped a bad relationship with my biological dad, who was abusive all my life, and then she found my stepdad. Let's call him Jeff. I grew up liking dancing. Having taken some classes, I could say I'm pretty good at it. Usually, when I'm comfortable around people, I dance. I like doing this one dance with my mom and sisters that kinda looks like I'm twerking from the back. I do not do that type of dance in front of men, so please do not say I was doing it on purpose in front of him. My stepdad did not know about that dance, or he didn't. 4 weeks ago, I was dancing with my little sister to some music while doing chores. No boys were around, and it was just me and my little sister, so I did the dance. I did not see my stepdad walking into the house from the back door, not until my sister stopped dancing, and I looked behind me to see Jeff standing there. I instantly stopped, obviously embarrassed, and my sister and I went back to doing chores. That is not what I found creepy, but what I found really creepy and inappropriate was when a day later he asked to talk to me in his room. I really didn't want to, but I just wanted it to be over and done with because I do not like him. Once he brought me to his room, he said blankly with a straight voice, "Why don't you dance like that in front of me?" I got really uncomfortable and left the room. Leaving the house with my car, I did not feel comfortable with him home alone, so I left and went to a friend's house. That wasn't the first time he did something really creepy. Another time was when I was taking a shower, and I heard a knock, so I yelled, "Yes." I did not hear anything, so I peeked my head from the shower only to see the doorknob trying to be opened. Luckily, it was locked. I knew it was him because after I yelled, "Stop," he had the audacity to say, "Why is the door locked?" Like, what the actual fuck? What do you think? After that, I told my mom about it, saying she needs to set boundaries or I am leaving and going no contact. I know that was a little dramatic, but I do not give a flying shit. He did so many creepy things to me, and my mom does nothing about it. The reason I'm scared to tell her is because she genuinely loves this dude, and I hate to be the reason she can't find love. I'm sorry for the end. I'm not good at English, and I'm really not wanting to talk about this because I'm still trying to recover from him asking me that and the previous things he's been doing. Right now, I'm staying at my grandma's. Story: Escape from Little Rock. I unlocked the door that had once been mine. My best bud Lynn now shared the space with another roommate, Frida. Lynn and I had plans to move back in together soon, prompting me to take on a second part-time job to save up. During Christmas break, Lynn and Frida generously offered me their apartment while they visited family. I would visit my parents and brothers for a couple of days, but could and would only tolerate my domineering mother in short spurts. Lynn and I had just completed our first semester of junior year in college. Frida, a freshman, had moved in with Lynn while I spent a semester at a school in my hometown. As I opened Lynn and Frida's door, I was startled to find John lurking in the dark. He was a bartender who'd been quite taken with me at my new part-time job. We worked at a restaurant, bar, and pool hall called Smitty's. On my first night, after Smitty's shut down at 3 in the morning, we went to an all-night diner with a group of my new coworkers and watched the sun come up together on Thanksgiving morning. Then I took a nap and drove 2 hours to my parents' house for a holiday dinner. But that night in December, John seized my neck with his massive hands and slammed me against the wall. He towered over me by 9 inches, and I'm 5 feet 7 inches. "I could kill you right now with my bare hands," he hissed, his jaw clenched. "No one would ever know. Nobody even knows I'm here. I didn't see your car in the parking lot. I caught a ride over and slipped in while the black girl was packing," he boasted. Struggling to breathe, I placed my hands atop his. "Frida probably had no idea you were here. Who's the guy you took to the work Christmas party?" he demanded to know. "And where've you been since it ended 3 hours ago? Fucking him?" He loosened his grip, allowing me to respond. I gasped for air. "I couldn't find you," I replied in a hoarse whisper, though I hadn't looked. He let me go and grabbed his head with both hands. Light from a street lamp helped my eyes adjust while revealing dark circles under his. "I took a friend," I said. "He's my manager at my other part-time job, at the yogurt shop." John glared at me. "We're just friends," I swore. "And I'm done working at the bar. I was just earning extra money for moving and Christmas. All for naught because he robbed me." "What did you do after the party?" "We rented a movie, Soul Man. Have you seen it?" I stepped away from the wall and turned on a light. "You should rest in Lynn's room while I shower off the smoke smell from the bar." "And you'll join me?" he asked. I nodded, lying. He stumbled back to Lynn's room as I locked myself in the bathroom, examining my neck in the mirror. I emerged from the shower to find him in a deep sleep. Careful not to wake him, I stuffed clothes in a bag and slipped out, feeling dizzy. It was Sunday night, December 20th, 1992. The air was cold, and my hair dripping wet. Once inside my locked car, I breathed a sigh of relief. "I'd go back over to your place, Brett, but I don't want you to know about this, it's embarrassing." I drove to Lee's apartment, knowing he'd let me in. We had a history and a close friendship, and he'd been asking about trying again. He would soon turn 31 and was thinking about settling down. He was a recovering cocaine addict and a not-sober alcoholic. "Hey, baby, what's going on?" asked my 30-year-old former lover. A transplant to Little Rock, he spoke in a thick Baltimore accent, yawning and rubbing his eyes. I think I'm at least mildly concussed." I whispered hoarsely, "and I need a safe place to crash for the night if you don't mind." I clung to my bruised neck. Lee pulled my hand away. Who hurt you? He asked, alarmed. He didn't force himself on me like you did when in the same state, a year and a half ago. The man who strangled me tonight is a jealous, 6 feet 4 inches bartender at Smitty's. He's coming down from maybe a 2-day coke high. Lee grabbed a pillow and blanket from a closet and threw them onto his couch. You mean, a bartender you're fucking, because, guess what, blew it, men you aren't fucking don't tend to fly into jealous rages. I sighed. He can't find me here. I know you get up early. Can we argue tomorrow? I thought we were making headway on starting over, baby. Didn't we have a nice lunch the other day? How long have you been seeing this guy? I thought about it for a moment. 3.5 weeks? I kicked off my shoes and made myself comfortable on the couch. Speaking was painful, but I continued, still in a whisper. His name is John. A few nights ago, he stopped by while I was out and stole my stash of tips and some inexpensive jewelry. I rubbed the back of my head where John had slammed me against the wall. I didn't think he would show up again after he stole from me. And I planned to be done with Smitty's and everyone there after tonight. Lee handed me a glass of water. When I told John it wasn't working out, he cried, Lee, even though we'd only known each other a couple weeks. So, I promised we could still attend the Smitty's employee Christmas party together. Smitty's is closed on Sundays. We were looking forward to having the whole bar and pool hall to ourselves for the party tonight. I took my bra off under my shirt and curled up on the couch. This morning, the owner of the bar called me looking for John because he hadn't shown up for work Saturday night. I assumed he was still someplace getting high with my tips he took, and so I invited Brett to the party. And somebody told John. Yes, Brett, your neighbor who gave me a job. I worked with him at the yogurt store today. I wonder how many people realize the scent of waffle cones makes people happy. John is a coke addict? Lee asked. Yeah, when I saw how much cocaine was in his apartment, I told him things weren't gonna work out, and I couldn't get out of his place fast enough. He and his roommates had a huge stash, and people buying from them were lined up from the coffee table out a kitchen side door down an alley. Lee lit a cigarette. If you wanted to be with a cocaine addict, you could have come back to me, a clean one. Do you want me to go, Lee? I sat up and reached for my shoes. Technically, I live with Allura and her mom Linda until the end of the month. I ran fingers through my hair. I didn't want to wake Linda by coming in so late. She works early, too. I wiped away a tear. And this whole situation is humiliating. Plus, John's been to Allura's and can find me there. I don't want to put Allura and Linda at risk. I drank my water. Fine. We'll talk tomorrow. Lee stomped back to his room and slammed his door. The next morning, I awoke to the sound and scent of sizzling bacon. I'm sorry about last night, Lee said. He handed me a plate. I'm glad you came to me. I just wish you hadn't fucked him is all. He found my keys in my things and put them in his jacket pocket. I can't get through my day worried about you going back over there. If you need anything, we'll go together later, okay? I nodded. He examined my neck. Are you sure you're all right? I squeezed his hand. He kissed my forehead. Thanks for covering my $50 bar tab the other day. I found my wallet back at the office. I nodded. I'm 6 months off the hard stuff, baby. He headed out the door. 30 years ago, I married Brett. Story: Losing a best friend. This is a true story. It was the year of 2002. I was 12 years old in the 7th grade at the time. My best friend Chris lived 2 doors down from me. Chris and I frequently hung out nearly every day since the 6th grade. We technically didn't know each other long, but you would have thought we knew each other our whole lives. We were best friends and nothing could change that. Or so I thought. Every morning before school I would head over to Chris's house for video games. This was a ritual. I would try to make it over there early so we had ample time to play Halo Combat Evolved before the bus picked us up. He had his Xbox set up in the basement of the house, which was nice because it avoided the dysfunction of Chris's home. Chris's dad was an extreme alcoholic. A violent one at that. He was completely unpredictable and would lash out without warning, whether it be verbally or physically. He was sort of a monster. My mother would frequently allow Chris and his mother to stay with us overnight if a fight ever got out of hand. Unfortunately, it did a lot. Chris's mom had a great job with the government. She was the nicest lady I had ever known outside of my own family. She was a second mom to me. I was over there so much she would even be sure to stock the fridge with my favorite soda, vanilla Coke. She was incredibly thoughtful and just the sweetest person. Now to Chris's dad. Besides what I've already told you, he didn't work. In fact, I never saw him really do anything besides lie on the couch, watch TV, and drink. He also yelled a lot, but didn't contribute anything to the family other than chaos, it seemed. Other than the Xbox being in Chris's basement, Chris's uncle also lived down there. He was awesome. He didn't mind how loud we got, and he was always there to talk to us about our problems. He was the cool uncle. Whenever he wasn't home, Chris and I would find one of his cigarettes and go smoke one. He caught us one time and laughed. He told us he didn't want us doing that though, and did give us a lecture, but didn't get us into any kind of trouble. It's shocking that this uncle is Chris's dad's brother. They were complete opposites in every way. One morning before school I entered directly into Chris's basement. Across the basement I can see Chris playing video games as usual. Before I can even shut the back door behind me, Chris says, "I'm not going to school today." I walked over to Chris and immediately knew why. Chris had a black eye and a swollen lip. He turns off the video game and explains what happened. As we sat there, Chris explained what his father did to him. Chris finished with saying that he hated his dad. I did too. I loved Chris as a brother and hated seeing him this way. That's when I had this idea. I told Chris this idea and he smiled. It felt really good seeing him smile even under the circumstances. He thought the idea was hilarious. We always were pranksters and he agreed that this would be a perfect way to get back at his dad. We immediately started on the idea. We didn't have much time before the bus came, so we had to act fast. We went into Chris's uncle's room and began finding the items we needed. A pair of shoes, socks, underwear, and to finish it all off, one of Chris's uncle's condoms. The idea consisted of placing these items under the bed where Chris's mom slept upstairs, basically making it look like the uncle and mom were having an affair. Chris's dad slept on the couch every night and never really went up there except maybe for a shower and a change of clothes. Once we had the items we needed, one of us had to covertly run these items upstairs and put them where they needed to be. Under Chris's mom's bed. Chris got cold feet. He didn't want to risk getting caught. He begged me to do it. Chris argued that his dad couldn't do anything to me if I got caught because I wasn't his kid. I wasn't buying that, but I agreed anyway. I tiptoed right next to Chris's passed out drunk dad on the couch and made my way upstairs. It was easy. Chris's mom had already left for work. I placed the socks into each shoe with a crumbled pair of boxers. I opened the condom and threw it under the bed beside the shoes. Perfect. Mission complete. We then went to school and found ourselves sort of forgetting about it. A week went by and still nothing had happened. I finally remembered to ask Chris about it one afternoon. He said his guess was it wasn't found yet. We laughed about it and that was it. The next morning before school, I went straight to Chris's back door and it was locked. Strange. He always left it unlocked for me. I went around to the front of the house and most of the cars were gone. I went back home to tell my mom. She tells me to go to the bus stop on my own and maybe Chris had a doctor's appointment or possibly something came up. She didn't have a clue. Chris never came to school that day. After school I went back over to Chris's house. Again nobody was home. I started shooting hoops on his basketball hoop while waiting for him. Eventually, a truck does pull up in the driveway. It was Chris's uncle. Chris's uncle got out and quickly jogged around the house toward his bedroom. I said hello, but he completely ignores me. That's when I realized Chris was in the truck too. He immediately tells me to just go home. I start to tell him about how his uncle just ignored me. But he interrupts me again. Just go home, please. I asked him what was going on. Chris tells me that his uncle and him were only at the house briefly to pick up some clothes and would be heading right back to the hospital where his mother lied in a coma. With tears in his eyes, he explains how his dad found the condom and everything else. It started everything. He was drunk and had a complete mental breakdown. He accused the mom of an affair and tried to kill her. He strangled her till she was unconscious. He beat her very badly. Then continued the beating by stomping her unconscious body into a bloody pulp of a mess. He only stopped the vicious beating momentarily to pour an accelerant on her to try and burn her body. Apparently, by that time, the uncle had intervened and stopped him before the burns were that bad. Chris then called 911 while his uncle restrained the father. The rest is history. I told him how sorry I was that this happened. I didn't know what else to say at the time. I tried to hug him, but he pushed me away. I was shocked about what had happened. I still couldn't believe it. Who would have thought a harmless prank could end like this? I told my mom all about what happened and cried about it for some time. After about a week, Chris finally came back to school. But things were never the same between us. Just a nod in the hallways turned into absolutely nothing. I didn't exist to him anymore. We never spoke as best friends again. I think a part of him still blamed me. It was my idea after all. Chris's mom did survive. After recovering from burns, a collapsed lung, lacerations, broken bones, and many surgeries later, she eventually recovered and met someone who treats her like a queen. She got remarried to this man. She is still as beautiful as ever and continues to stay in touch with my mother to this day. Chris's dad is still in prison as far as I know. May he rot there. Story: The Pink Adoptee. It was lost. Although it had only gained consciousness some 12 minutes prior, it was certain that things were not going to plan. Damn, it thought, not entirely sure why it was so alarmed. It was hurtling toward the Earth on a comet made almost entirely out of zinc, although chemical makeup didn't really matter. Zinc, copper, lead, they were all just a means to an end. Thousands of miles below, a farmer looked up at the stars. It was a clear night, although the light pollution from the nearby industrial gristle manufacturing plant extinguished the majority of the celestial bodies orbiting above. The farmer stared up at the Little Dipper, as the big one was obscured by the soft, orange glow of the plant's hundreds of heating lamps. The farmer, rocking steadily in his rocking chair on the stoop of his 2-story farmhouse, took a long, gluttonous sip of whiskey straight from the bottle. Welford's Best, the label read. The farmer hoped that one day Welford could learn to do better. A pendant slipped out of his half-open flannel shirt. Whiskey dribbled from his lips, soaking both the pendant and the crotch of his overalls. Shit. The farmer wiped the pendant on his coarse, unkempt beard, like a man rubbing a towel on his years unshaven pubic jungle. He winced as a hair caught in the pendant's chain and was plucked sharply from his chin. He opened the pendant, revealing 2 portraits on either side. One was of a woman, the farmer's wife. She had a stern expression that stood in stark contrast to her floral-printed dress. He had bought her that dress, more for him than her. She never thanked him for the present, which she obviously resented, but she wore it. That was enough. The other portrait was of a rosy-cheeked infant, not a year old. The soft pink blanket swaddling her tiny, fragile body betrayed her gender. A girl, the farmer's daughter. Looking at the portraits, the farmer felt not love, nor longing, nor any romantic feeling toward his lost family. He felt only pain, a burning in his chest and cheeks and eyes. He took another drink, and the bottle shone blue-green. That was weird, even for a man as inebriated as the farmer. The rosy-cheeked complexion of his daughter turned a sickly green in the light. He looked up to see a shooting star streaking across the sky, far larger than any he'd seen before. Probably some Chinese balloon burning itself to shit, the drunken farmer thought. He had heard about those on the fake news, but still kind of believed in them. This balloon was falling fast, faster than a balloon should be falling. It slowly, too slowly, dawned on him that this balloon was rocketing directly toward him. The burning ball of zinc buzzed the roof of his farmhouse, and for a second he was disappointed that it missed. All thoughts left his mind when he felt the ground shudder and heard the thunderous collision of the comet inseminating the earth. He jumped up, forgetting that his shotgun was lying in his lap like a fat, lazy cat. It clattered to the floor and fired buckshot into the wooden railings of his porch. They exploded in a hailstorm of splinters, but the farmer didn't give a shit about his porch. For the first time in years, the pain was gone from his heart, replaced by an anxious curiosity. The farmer picked up his smoking shotgun and tucked the stock into his armpit. The image of an injured Chinese soldier clawing his way out of the wreckage wormed its way nonsensically into the farmer's mind. Not on my farm, he thought. He was a patriot, god damn it, and no Chinese was invading his country on his watch. When he arrived at Ground Zero, he was again disappointed. He did not find a Chinese militant crawling toward him, half-charred with his skin sloughing off as he aimed a defective Chinese handgun at the farmer. Instead, he found a rock no bigger than a basketball, blue-green flames shining bright as zinc oxide fumes plumed upward. He raised his shotgun. He had walked over to the crash site with the intention of shooting something, and this glowing rock would just have to do. The shotgun wobbled in his hands, and he struggled to get the little meteor in his sights. Stay still, he told the rock, or the shotgun, or his hands. He wasn't really sure which. The rock twitched. The farmer released his finger grip on the trigger. It twitched again, more fiercely this time. The farmer watched, trying desperately to ignore the fear creeping into his gut. A hairline fracture crawled its way up the rock, and the thing suddenly split in two. A fog emerged from the broken meteor, rising up like the steam from a freshly microwaved White Castle burger. It stunk, and the farmer recoiled from the stench. It reminded him of the gristle plant. That damn gristle plant. His family used to own that land, way back when, and it was supposed to pass down to his daughter. He saw something in the meteor. Pink and slimy, oozing from the core. Gelatinous fingers pawed at the meteor as they pushed against its constricting walls. The farmer raised his gun again. Chunks of meteor fell away like broken eggshell, revealing it. A mass of pink jelly, its transparent body revealing a network of veins and nerves just below the surface. Two black masses in the center darted back and forth, taking in what little information it could from the low light surrounding. Unlike the farmer, it was grateful for the light pollution of the gristle plant. It gurgled and cooed like a shot fawn, a sound that repulsed the farmer. What are you? He thought. The coal black masses inside the jelly blob locked onto the farmer's eyes. It looked down at the pendant dangling from his neck and saw the rosy-cheeked baby. It knew what it needed to do. Slowly, the jelly mass solidified into the shape of a human child, rosy-cheeked and fresh as a newborn. The farmer recognized it as Amy Lee, his long-lost daughter. He dropped the shotgun involuntarily. He fell to his knees and scooped the infant into his arms, pink slime dripping off its skin like the last few drops of a wet dog stool. He didn't mind, all he knew was that the pain was gone. His soul felt true relief for the first time in years, and he didn't dare question it. He held the infant to his face and drank in the warmth radiating off its skin. He's cold, it thought. This was not what it had pictured, but figured this would have to do for now. Who knows, maybe they could learn to love each other. 10 years later. The farmer was making breakfast. 4 plump sausages and a half-dozen eggs sizzled on the cast iron. It sat at the table, although it had gone by the name of Émilie for the last decade. It didn't like that name, but it never protested. The farmer was sensitive, and any divergence from what he expected from his adopted daughter was met with harsh rebuke. "She wouldn't do that," he would say with a bite. Still, being Emily was uncomfortable. It molded itself into her, making slight changes over the years to account for aging. The real Emily did not live past 8 months, so it had to take some creative liberties. "Breakfast is served," said the farmer. He plated the evenly divided meals and placed them at either end of a knobby oak table. It sat across from him as usual, staring down at the salt-crusted meat tubes before it. They tasted wrong, although it was unable to say exactly what should taste right. Human cuisine disgusted it, but food is fuel and it needed to survive. Feeling a particularly bitter resentment for the farmer today, it decided to flex its otherness. It opened its mouth to an impossible degree, impossible for humans, anyway. A tri-forked tongue unfurled from its mouth, striking a sausage and curling around it like a python after a successful hunt. The farmer slammed his fist on the table. "No, no. That's wrong," he chided. As the sausage disappeared down its gullet, the man pulled a small remote control from his grease-stained overall pocket. He pressed a button, and a sharp volt of electricity surged through the chains on faux Emily's left ankle. It was uncomfortable, but so was this planet. It was worth the pain for a moment of defiance. At first, there was no chain. It played the part of a cooing infant, and the farmer was happy. As it aged, its mobility improved. It could walk around the farmhouse, even outside. The farmer did not like this. He insisted it never leave the farm and, unsure of what dangers lied beyond, it obeyed. As the years went by, the farmer's grip grew tighter. Any reminder of its true being was met with harsh punishment. Slowly, it assimilated. It lived the life of a sheltered farm girl, but it desired more. It thought about others, more of its kind. Surely they were out there, searching for it. Eventually, the confinement grew maddening. It had tried to slip away in the night, but the farmer had secretly prepared for this inevitability. It was caught and the chain applied to its ankle, cutting into its skin. The wound was a constant source of pink, droopy goo that oozed in fresh spurts whenever it moved. It regurgitated the sausage onto the farmer's plate. Enraged, he flipped the table over and descended on it. "You ungrateful bitch," he screamed. "I've given you everything. I took you out of that mud hole and loved you like you were my own. I raised you, fed you, gave you clothes. Where do you get off disrespecting me?" It stared at the farmer with dilated eyes. Choosing chaos over oppressive peace, it spat a phlegmy, salmon-pink globule of mucus in the center of the farmer's face. His eyes widened in shock, then shrunk in contempt. Without a word, he grabbed it by the hair and dragged it across the floor. It shrieked, an inhuman shriek that ruptured the farmer's eardrums. He didn't care. Blood dripped from his ears onto his Emily as he yanked it toward the door. Its foot caught on the chain as it grew taut. Pain shot through its leg up to its chest. Frustrated, the farmer pulled harder. Sinew strained, and its not-quite skin peeled at the edges of its shackle. Its screams took on a new form, a chunky gurgle of agony. The farmer twisted and pulled, finally putting his foot on its and pulling with immense strength. Rip, crack, the foot came off, shackles still tightly gripping the ankle. Its bloody stump weeped viscous pink. "Shut up, it'll grow back," he said, unprompted. "Ain't that right?" It could not stay silent. Some genetic instinct drove it to scream and beg and claw toward freedom. Humans were strong, ape descendants with an unmatched capability for violence. Its only hope was to inspire pity, and that ship had sailed years ago. "You want to be a freak? You want to phone home," he mocked. "Here." The farmer had reached his destination, the meter-wide crater where he first found it a decade prior. Gripping the hair on the back of its head, he shoved its face in the dirt. "You want to go back where you came from now?" A wicked smile crossed his face as he cackled insanely. It attempted to push away from the ground, but its tender arms could not repel the force of the farmer. As the gravelly dirt pressed up against it, its face began to distort. The visage of a sweet farm girl melted into the ground, like a wax statue staring into a heat lamp. The pressure was turning its face into a thick soup. "You're not mine," the farmer cursed. He pressed harder. It screamed, the sounds vibrating through its gelatinous throat like a guitar lick heard from underwater. A blue-green shine fell over its face. The farmer's grotesque, demonic expression softened into one of anxious confusion. He looked up and saw a meteor zooming toward him. A weak gasp expelled from his lips as the meteor bolted overhead and impacted the farmhouse. Like a fertilizer bomb, the meteor exploded in a fiery mushroom of blue-green. Mounds of earth rose into the sky, as shards of wood ascended and then rained back to the ground. It watched in awe. The farmer released it no, he screamed as he raced toward the ruins of his life. It slowly rose to its foot. Its bloody stump had congealed and morphed into something roughly equivalent to a hoof, flat-soled and stable. It limped unevenly in the farmer's wake, toward the flames. The farmer fell to his knees, choking on his despair. Words would not come, but the pain had returned, that feeling that all is lost. As the dust settled, both it and the farmer could see a writhing pink mass at ground zero. It was big, much larger than it had been when it first arrived on this shithole planet. The blue-green light of the flames shimmered through its pink, translucent body. It, formerly Amelie, had never seen anything so beautiful. The tumorous mass heaved toward the farmer. He thought about his wife, his daughter. He knew now how ashamed they would be at what he had become. He looked back at it, his adopted daughter. It could see remorse in his eyes, but it did not forgive him. It wasn't sure that it ever could. The lumbering mass passed over the farmer, consuming him. It watched as digestive enzymes churned in the shapeless blob. The farmer's skin bubbled, like hydrogen peroxide on an open wound. His mouth contorted in a silent scream as his lungs filled with the alien acid. In moments, all that was left were the indigestible bits, clothing, and hair. The organism rolled slowly toward it, leaving the goo-soaked waste of the farmer in its wake. It stopped just a foot shy of the smaller being, the ghostly, half-melted and mutilated specter of Amelie. It recognized this as an invitation. It approached the mother mass and pressed its hand to the gummy figure. The hand melted and fused with the being, and it felt good. A wave of relief pulsed through its body, and soon its entire being was assimilated. Only then did it realize that its savior was not one being, but multitudes all living together in one shapeless body. It was a family, its family. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.